staying with us. Now, the Economic Community of West African States, that's ECOWAS, has rejected the Niger Junta's proposal for a 3-year transition of power to a democratic government. ECOWAS Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security, Ambassador Abdel Fattah Musa, says the offer is completely unacceptable. Recall that the leader of the Niger Junta, General Abdurrahmani Chiani, said that the army will hand over power to the civilian government within the next 3 years, and political parties are urged to submit their vision for the transition within 30 days. Now, joining us via Zoom from the Gambia to discuss more on this issue is security expert, a regional coordinator for Central Africa Institute for Security Studies in Senegal, Dr. Oluwole. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, ECOWAS is saying that the military junta's position is seemingly upsetting because they are rejecting what the military junta has offered, saying that they would restore constitutional order in 3 years. What is your position, or what is your position or view of ECOWAS's stance with regards to what the military junta is saying?
Well, thank you so much once again. I think history is playing out here, and the ECOWAS, having learned from Burkina Faso, having learned from Mali, is certainly not going to operate by that playbook for obvious reasons. Recall that in 2020, 2021, Mali made a proposal that they were going to return to civilian rule in 4 years. ECOWAS pushed back, there was a lot of noise, and then they found a midpoint of, I think, 2.5 years or 2 years or thereabouts. But since then, we are almost getting into the original 4 years that was proposed by ECOWAS, by the military government in Mali originally, because the military junta started playing hide and seek, finding excuses for the need to prolong the transition. And I think it's the same playbook that the Niger junta want to play out now. So having learned from history, ECOWAS certainly is not going to permit this, and that is the reason why you have seen the pushback. And I think, unfortunately, the way the junta are playing out as far as this negotiation is concerned, we might actually be heading towards the undesirable, actually.
But the military junta has said that it is proposing that political parties submit visions for transition within 30 days. Is that a hide-and-seek move from the military?
Yes, it's a hide-and-seek move, and I think we also need to connect this to recent developments in terms of the gunboat diplomacy that the ECOWAS has deployed actually, because what necessitated the recent rapprochement on the part of the junta in Niger is because they suddenly realized that ECOWAS is not just making a threat. ECOWAS can actually strike. That is the reason why you see that recently they've been able to, the General Chiani himself has accepted to meet some envoys from ECOWAS. I think 1 or 2 has happened. He met with the Sultan of Sokoto, and then so they started realizing that they needed to shift ground. So the 3 years proposal actually is to see whether ECOWAS is going to embrace that. And if ECOWAS embrace that, then they find a midpoint of maybe like 18 months or 24 months or 12 months, whichever way it goes. But the objective of ECOWAS is that they need immediate democratic transition, because the coup in Niger is one too many. They realized that they gave a soft approach in Mali. It lingered for 4 years. They gave a soft approach in Guinea. It's also lingering. They also gave a soft approach in Burkina Faso. Even in the process, we witnessed 2 coups. And you don't know what is going to happen next. So that this doesn't become a culture that is normalized, that is the reason why ECOWAS is really, really pushing back. So it is not in the interest of the military to say and dictate for the other bloc in ECOWAS that stand for democracy as a union to say they are going to be requesting for the political parties to submit their plans for election and internal party democracies and all those things. What ECOWAS is saying is that restore immediate, because they've not been able to explain, except it's not in the public domain, the reason why they actually ousted Bazoum in the first place. Bazoum is not dead. Bazoum has not resigned. So you can't leave the first chapter to be reading the second or the third chapter. That is what is playing out now, and that is the reason why you are seeing that pushback from ECOWAS. But the big question here is, what is going to happen to Bazoum? What has happened to Bazoum? Have they found any fault with his administration? And even if they did, they have done that, what is the constitutional role of the military in determining the direction of democracy in any country? They have no basis in the first place. And we are not going to normalize this. I stand with ECOWAS, and I think ECOWAS is pushing in the right direction. Because if they allow this to stand now, what you are going to see in another place in less than 1 year or so, nobody can predict now, because coup can suddenly become a normal approach, a culture, a way of life, of truncating democracy in the West African sub-region. So I stand and I understand with ECOWAS that this playbook, we have seen it before, and we are not going to entertain it again.
Right, with the coupists now saying that they would allow for only 3 years. In 3 years' time, they will be, relinquishing power. Do you feel that's a negotiating position on their own part? And that's one. The other one is, the leader of the leader of the military in Niger Republic, said they do not want war. But if ECOWAS feels that they would attack them, or they would actually launch a war, that they are ready to fight back, to defend themselves, do they have the capability to withstand ECOWAS' move to restore constitutional order?
Well, please, if I miss the first question because I'm tackling the second one, please remind me again. We can talk.
Right. Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead. Answer that first.
We can talk in terms of capability of the military. If you look at it on paper assessment of Niger, even put together Mali and Burkina Faso, these are countries that have found it very difficult to deal with insurgencies in the country. In fact, recent events have shown that there has been about 3 or 4 major attacks in Niger since the military guys came into power. And the reason is not far-fetched. Once the military seizes power like this, what they do is to concentrate on regime protection. The implication of that is that soldiers will be withdrawn from the field. And then you create a room for all these armed groups to begin to operate freely. Now, if they have not been able to tackle insurgency, multiple criminality in the country, terrorism and banditry, so by the time they had a new layer of war to hit, I don't think they can match the ECOWAS. The reason why some of us are shouting on the top of our voice against the war is because of the potential humanitarian consequence. Because you can predict the beginning, but nobody can tell how it's going to end, as we have seen in Ukraine, as we have seen in Afghanistan and all these places that there have been invasion, at least for the sake of the poor. So those things are just military grandstanding to say if they come, they are going to defend themselves. Because the only option that Niger is going to have is to be playing on the defensive. They don't have the capability to strike in these multiple places. How are they going to take on ECOWAS? So I think all this is just grandstanding and not really considering the life of the poor who are going to be bear the burden and the consequences of an invasion in case it happens. So I don't think they should have an overrated estimate of themselves, at least for the sake of the poor. The best thing to do is to go in the direction of soft negotiation and see how there can be a quick military transition in the country. Please, you can remind me the second.
Yeah, so what I was trying to get from you was that do you consider the 3-year demand made by the coupists, for them to be able to, relinquish power at the end of the day as a negotiating position by them, a way from them to start from?
That is what they want to do. Their objective is to stay in power. And to stay in power, to also have access to the largesse in the country. That is the objective. And when they propose a 3-year arrangement, there are 2 factors to consider here. They also will have left a room for maneuvering, for negotiation, to see whether they can land in 8 months or 24 months. We have to bear that in the mind. But the second thing is that this thing can become protracted along the way, like we have seen in Mali, like we have seen in Burkina Faso. The military people, as we have learned in Nigeria in our recent history, they don't keep to time. That is the reason why from IBB to Abacha, they kept shifting the ground. The only 2 persons that actually kept to their word of democracy transition in Nigeria are General Obasanjo and General Abdulsalami Abubakar. And when you look at this compared to what we have seen in Mali and Burkina Faso in the recent time, ECOWAS must not tolerate that, because it is going to become an incentive for other coupists to also strike in other countries in the coming day and could become a normalized experience and a way of life to political development in the country. That is the number one thing. I've also seen some analysts, some writers, some journalists, and scholars who have gone to the field to say the reason why the coup happened in the first place is because government is not delivering on good governance. Two wrongs don't make it right. The worst of a democracy administration is better, far better than any military administration in the world. So we mustn't fall for that escapist analysis to justify coup, because it's just a bunch of professionals who have been trained to defend the territorial integrity of the country. They are not better than Fashion Designers Association outside. They are not better than ASU members. They are not better than Guild of Journalists. So there is no incentive to say they should now replace democratically elected order in any country. We must not fall for that because of governance deficit, then we suddenly begin to roll back the dark days of military administration, military authoritarianism in West Africa.
But it seems the narrative in Niger, as is being touted, is that the people are in support of the coup. They came out even to support this the coupists, so to speak, and that they are in full support of what is going on. So how do we balance that if we are saying that the matter that led to the Bazoum being ousted is not about delivering on good governance?
It can never be. It's all about propaganda. And I'm not holding brief for Bazoum here to say maybe his administration has been excellent. But based on evidence, satisfaction with democracy in Niger, according to Afrobarometer, has been on the rise in the recent time. And even presidential approval has also been on the rise on the recent, in fact, above 50% according to Afrobarometer data. What we've seen in the recent time of people waving the flag of Russia, pro-coup demonstrators in Niamey, and then people who are latching on to the anti-French sentiment in the country. What they are doing, basically, it can happen anywhere. You give people money, as we have seen in Nigeria, they will go on the street and start demonstrating even for something that is not good for their welfare. I think it's a playbook that we've seen all over the places. So until anybody we go, we go to Niamey, go to Agadez, go to Maradi, go to Difa region, go to Dosso, these places, and administer interview, gather data, to be able to take the percentage shift that we have seen in the recent time, possibly maybe in terms of satisfaction with military administration. I think what we have are just anecdotal evidences and innuendos here and there. But we will speak on the data that is available before the attack, before the military strike in Niamey. It is unacceptable. And let me also say that people demonstrating in Niamey, they are just a fractional percentage of the entire population, which is not completely representative. Okay. Nobody has put the camera on also.
All right, Dr. Jawale, let's just quickly put you on hold for a minute. We'll definitely come back to you on this conversation. This matter of it's just a fraction of persons who are in support of the coup has been a matter of being argued, you know, on the streets, on social media, talking about, yes, we see a fraction of persons coming out to show support, but there are those who do not, who are not in support of the coup in Niger. And it also goes to show if the people who are showing support are not being engineered.
That's the thing, you know.
To do that.
We said something
like that yesterday, and not be engineered to do so. And the matter of good governance, how do we place it there in Niger? We do not have the full details of what transpired. Like he mentioned, Dr. Jawale mentioned, we do not know what led to the coupists deciding to oust Bazoum. If we have that detail, perhaps we begin to look into, is it a matter of not delivering on the dividends of democracy or not? What is really the issue here?
Yeah, so many things, you know, so many things. Well, some said the people on the street, because, well, it's a military rule now, a sovereign nation, no doubt. How do you now tell that they are happy with the fact that they have the coupists in power? I think we have our
I guess back online, Dr. Ojawale is back. He's been speaking with us on ECOWAS's reaction to the coupists in Niger, putting forward that they will return to constitutional order or return constitutional order after 3 years, and they are asking political parties to submit their vision for the transition within 30 days. Dr. Oluwole Ojawale has been speaking with us on that. Now, they have also spoken about foreign intervention. They said that if they notice or see anything as such, it will not be a walk in the park for ECOWAS. I wonder what you see with regards to this matter of foreign intervention. How is it that the coupists are so perhaps angry with regards to these persons? They had spoken to the French forces sometime earlier, giving them 30 days to leave the country. We do not know what is happening with regards to that. But now they are saying any foreign intervention, this matter, it won't be a walk in the park for ECOWAS.
Like I said, I think the Junta too need to put up some military grandstanding. You can, if they know that they are capable of defending the country, then they should go ahead. There is no need for all these, if they notice the interest of foreign power. And who are they defining as foreign power? Because there is also rumor that they are also trying to co-opt Wagner into this. Is Wagner local? I think those things are just to maybe while away time. What I need to emphasize is the fact that at least by the time ECOWAS demonstrated interest, having audit meetings in Abuja, moving the meeting to Ghana, the junta suddenly realized that ECOWAS means business. And I think that is the reason why they've shifted ground. So whether there's going to be, because in the first place, if all these other 10 countries in ECOWAS region put together, they are already foreign power, they are already foreign interest. So what do they define by foreign interest? Are they talking about the US? Are they talking about France? Which country are they actually talking about? So they can't determine the direction that the invasion is going to go, if that is the option that they choose. Their own option is just to be ready. But that is not in the interest of the entire region, as I've stated, and as a lot of people have actually stated on this program and on other platforms. So I think in their own interest, they should just give a short-term plan to democratic restoration, the transition in the country. Yeah, and 3 years, the public opinion is even going to support that.
Against the backdrop of the foreign intervention, the French troops and American troops were on ground when this coup, took place. And then we still have ECOWAS, saying that what the position ECOWAS is, planning to take, they are in support of it. Whereas America has also, had its own, they've appointed their own ambassador to ECOWAS. Is it all about foreign interest? And the fact that, do you feel ECOWAS should tread carefully? Because going into war is not as simple or as easy as getting out of war. We've seen Russia-Ukraine war, lingered for 2 years now, where Russia felt they could just walk into Ukraine and, it's going to be a walkover. So should ECOWAS, tread carefully and go back to have, better conversation about ensuring that they restore constitutional order? Why not? Whereas they won't be affecting, or the people, the ordinary people, will not be feeling the impact of this war.
Yes, I agree with you that ECOWAS should tread carefully. But from where you started with, America's largest drone base in the world is based in Niger, I think, in Niger. France also have theirs there. And those are not military infrastructure that you can decouple in haste. And if Niger is saying they don't want foreign interference, they also need to understand the role which is suddenly staring all of us in the face in terms of strategic positioning of Niger is a pivot state. What do I mean by
Dr. Ojawale, we can't hear you. Maybe you need to check your audio. Right. I really wanted to hear the aspect of Niger being a pivot state, such that these foreign troops, talking about the US and the France, will not easily leave the country as the coupists wanted them to. And he also speaking to the matter of ECOWAS treading carefully, because I am of the interest of how should ECOWAS move now. Are they going to send another delegation to have a conversation with the coupists so as to have a sense of direction? If we are saying 3 years is too long, should ECOWAS put forward its own terms, talking about the number of weeks, days, or year that they are looking forward to the coupists returning, having a transitional government, restoring a constitutional order? But I hear Dr. Oluwole is back, and you were saying something about Niger being a particular, you mentioned a word, I've forgotten now, that
Niger is a pivot state.
It's a pivot state, yes. That was the last word we heard. So you could just emphasize on that, then we'll move forward.
Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that such a pivot state, you don't expect international partners to fold their hands and not also show interest in what is happening in Niger now. Right. Looking at the airspace that is closed, looking at the abundance of uranium in the country. I'm aware 40% of uranium that is utilized in France is supplied by Niger. So when you look at all these countries, you want to disrupt such supply chain, strategic supply chain, and you think other foreign interests are going to close their eyes. That is not going to happen. So It is in their own interest that the negotiation become amenable to something shorter. And like you said here, ECOWAS really need to tread carefully.
Now, that's where my question lies. How should ECOWAS move moving forward? Should they send another delegation to have a conversation with the coupists? Because they are also insisting on restoring Bazoum back to power. Is that a possibility in your view?
Well, the restoration of Bazoum is a 50-50 game now as it stands, because it appears the military guys in Niger are not shifting ground. And don't let us also forget, although this is an unpalatable story, which is part of the evolution of what is happening in Niger, that Bazoum, the coup also has some serious ethnic coloration because Bazoum is from the minority. And I think there's some sort of ethnic gang up against that minority, historically and contemporary-wise in the country. So maybe as a result of that, we don't know the extent to which Bazoum can be restored. I know it's a very complicated story. But on the part of ECOWAS, I think what ECOWAS should be aiming at is a short transition. And I'm going to vote for something around 12 months, at least to exert themselves. What happened in Mali, what happened in Burkina Faso is not going to be tolerated or sustained in Niger. They would have passed a message in that regard.
All right, we'll have to leave the conversation there now because we have run out of time. But we must thank you, Dr. Oluwole, who is the security expert, regional coordinator for Central Africa Institute for Security Studies in Senegal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Well, this is where we drop the curtains on the program for today. But let's tell you that the views and reactions of all our resource persons are theirs and have no connection with TVC News. Up next is Your View with Mariah and the Lady.